Ugh. The wall facing the foot of my bed had this large lump that protruded slowly towards me. As it stretched, it became more and more detailed, veins, pores, pock marks, until I could see it was a long neck with a disturbing gray eyeless face, skin where eye holes should begin, and a really big lipless mouth with huge square teeth that were chattering rapidly. It had creepy stop-motion jerky twitchy movements. It unhinged its mouth with a sickening pop and crunch sound. The head twisted sideways so it could bite through my temples. It got right in my face before I snapped out of it. 0-10 would not recommend. This one was the most intense I have ever had it. Normally it is a dark figure barely in the peripheral vision just being menacing, then it is gone and I can move again. But that one left me shaken up. I turned on the lights, wrapped myself up in blankets, and trembled, glancing at that spot in the wall damn near in tears, until I finally went back to sleep after a while. It is a bit embarrassing as a grown man to have been so spooked, but my sleep paralysis is almost never direct and front-facing. It is vague and mostly a threatening feeling off to the side of the room normally, not a vivid, clear, noise-making, moving, lifelike abomination trying to bite my skull like an apple. I had a summer where I had 4 episodes of it and it hasn't happened since. All times, the room was pitch black so I could barely see a thing. Ever since when I sleep alone, I keep my lamp on a very low setting so I can see around the room just enough. First instance. Saw a dark figure crawling up my bed like reaching for the blankets to pull itself up, broke out of it and turned on the light, and nothing was there. I'd been asleep for maybe an hour at that point. Second instance. Saw a giant roach, like the size of a softball, crawling on the wall near my bed, then fall into my blanket. I broke out of it when it fell and ran to turn on the lights and started rummaging through my sheets like a crazy person until I woke up enough to realize it wasn't real. Third instance. Saw a snake slithering in my covers and could feel it. Jumped out of bed when I woke up fully and turned the light on, ripping up my sheets until I again realized that it wasn't real. Was getting sick of it at this point. Fourth and final. I saw a dark figure standing at the foot of my bed, just staring at me. Apparently, I screamed as I got up and turned on the light. It was about 4 a.m., and I guess my mom had woken up and was walking past my door and opened it to ask if I was okay. One of my pillows was where I saw the guy standing. I don't know if I threw it or kicked it when I was getting up or what exactly happened there. Never happened again after that, thankfully. I was taking a nap on my bed when I opened my eyes during my hallucination and saw the silhouette of a tall, black humanoid figure through the crack of my bedroom door. It had my father's voice, beckoned me and whispered my name. I live alone. When I finally woke up properly from the episode, I couldn't move and my chest felt like hot iron had pierced it, while my skin felt clammy and cold. I used to have sleep paralysis several times a week for several years. I always saw a demon and felt my life force, for lack of a better word, being drained by it while I was completely unable to move, not so much as blink. Over the years while I was going through this, it evolved. At first the demon took on the form of a sinister, inky black biped who stood next to my bed. By the end, it was a black cloud floating above me. Terrifying stuff. I used to stay awake for days at a time to avoid it. It doesn't happen anymore, thank God. I used to have sleep paralysis when I was younger, but it stopped around the age of 14 to 15. When I was very young, before age 9, and I slept in my bedroom, the sleep paralysis would consist of me waking up and hearing these weird screeching whispering sounds all around me and seeing these dark tendrils move all over the walls of my room and under around furniture and stuff with the occasional glints of red glowing eyes. If I looked toward my door, where I knew the path to freedom was, there would be these red glowing eyes perched right above it. I didn't sleep in my room a lot as a child, not that I had a better time in my mom's bed either. I don't know how she put up with all the disturbed sleep she got during those years. 2 times that didn't freak me out as much was once when I saw this dark shadowy figure of someone walk into my room, grab my mattress and begin dragging me out. It was really weird because part of me knew I wasn't actually moving anywhere. I was still in my bed, but I could also vividly see the world move around me and feel the mattress bump over the threshold and stuff. My cat came and laid down on my chest in the middle of it, and I focused everything I had on the sensation of it and managed to wake up. Gave that cat many cuddles as thanks. The other time that wasn't scary at all was when these 2 inky twins stood by the edge of my bed. First I thought it was kind of scary, and then I realized they were mocking me for not being able to move and laughing at me. Most infuriating sleep paralysis I've ever had. It was sometime in the dead of night. I slept with my TV on and suddenly had my eyes open with no warning. I was aware of the light from my TV screen dancing off the walls, but I literally couldn't move any part of my body. I notice out of the corner of my eyes that there's a black mass, kind of like fog, at my feet, and it rises up until it's on my chest. Then all at once, I feel like something is crushing in my chest, it won't let me breathe or move, and I can't do anything but see this black mist suffocating me. Then suddenly, I legitimately got up and was able to breathe again. I was gasping, so I assume it was just that I held my breath the whole time. I was in my early teens and had never experienced trouble sleeping up to that point, although I walked a lot, so it was extremely jarring, and I spent a huge portion of my time after thinking my house was haunted until I learned about sleep paralysis. Nowadays I just have trouble sleeping, but I do still get the paralysis here and there, mostly spider-related. Like tons crawling on me or huge ones on the ceiling. Sometimes it's faceless people trying to pull my blanket off of me, it's really weird, but the black mist has definitely been the worst. To set the scene, I was staying at a small estate with my family for one of my uncle's landmark birthdays. Pretty rural, with loads of woodlands nearby. I was in one of the small houses by myself. We went walking through the woods, and I distinctly recall feeling cold and watched after I walked under this weird tree archway thing. So we headed back. I was 12 or 13 at the time, I think, and I was still afraid of the dark and being alone, which I didn't think about when I said I'd be happy to have this small house to myself for the weekend. Anyway, still feeling uneasy, I leave some of the lights on so I'm not in complete darkness and fall asleep on my back. Big mistake. Around 3 a.m. I wake up, try to move my arm. But it doesn't even feel like I have an arm because it doesn't move and I can't feel it. I try to move my leg, same thing. It feels like my body is part of the bed. I open my eyes and can see pretty clearly thanks to the lights I left on. In the corner of my room, I kid you not, I see Slender Man. I freaked out and tried to kick my legs, move my arms, and scream, but all I could muster were slight yelps. My vision was really unclear, but I remember seeing dark, shadowy creatures running around the bed in my peripheral vision. He started coming closer to me, slowly, and tentacles started coming out of his back. By the time he reached my bed, I woke up. I was screaming and in the midst of a massive panic attack. I don't think I've been more scared in my life. I didn't sleep a wink for the rest of the night. I was hypervigilant and could have sworn I kept hearing voices around me, even some weeping sounds. I kept having to use the bathroom, and although at this time I wasn't really one for religion, I spent a good deal of the night praying to whoever to keep me safe. The next morning rolled around, and I asked if anyone else had experienced anything strange. Nope. Everyone slept perfectly. I've had a few sleep paralysis incidents since, once seeing the devil's hands, what I believed at the time, over my doorframe, another time not realizing I was paralyzed and accidentally rolling out of my body and having a weird out-of-body experience. But nothing nearly as terrifying as that. So I have PTSD, so I get sleep paralysis and hallucinations and nightmares. Worst thing I've seen was a guy walking up to me, specific guy, and telling me about how vulnerable I was, showing me scary stuff. There's also the recurring one where I see a silhouette of a person walk around my room, but all I can see are the eyes and the outline. This goes on for half an hour or so, pretty fleeb. When I was a kid, I mostly hallucinated that my teddy bears were breathing in my ear and blinking. If I moved, I would be in trouble. After a while, I moved them to my floor face down every night. During my early teens, my sleep paralysis had a lot to do with a demon black figure strangling me or sitting on my chest, so I had a hard time breathing. One time I fell asleep in my living room and I woke up to a man walking through my house and went into my brother's bedroom. When he came out, he was soaked in red. Then he went in my mom's room and came out covered in even more red. My body couldn't move and I tried to yell, but I was just wheezing. He started walking towards me and put his foot in my chest and the tip of his knife on my forehead. When I actually came to, I was covered in sweat and out of breath. I was about 10 years old for that one. Till I was about 16 I slept with my door locked or with a chair in front of my door when I couldn't lock it. Thankfully it doesn't happen nearly as often. Having someone else sleeping in my bed with me helps. A few times, however, I've had to be shaken to get out of a hallucination. The worst and first time this happened to me is when I first moved out of my parents' house into my own apartment. I was already nervous being on my own but excited at the same time. That being said, I would constantly take every noise I heard around the apartment as someone potentially breaking in and would stand up and check my whole one-bedroom apartment. I was like this for a few days. Since I was already nervous and sometimes terrified of being on my own, I would get nightmares at times. I don't know if this triggered the sleep paralysis or not. One night though, I just woke up unable to move, it was raining, and my TV was still on, but the light looked really dim. As I am looking around the room not being able to move, I see this tall black figure coming closer and closer to me. I am freaking out trying to move, but I can't. The figure then gets close to my face as if it was just observing me. My body then kicked into awake mode with all the adrenaline in my body. I tried to strike the figure with my fist, but as I lashed my arm out, it disappeared. I didn't go to sleep for the rest of the night.